The Republicans in the Indiana legislature passed that bill, and Mitch Daniels, with an uncharacteristically shaky hand and voiced doubts, he did sign it into law. It is a remarkable law, even for this current iteration of the NRA and even for Indiana. But that law, Indiana's It's Okay to Shoot Cops law, it didn't get all that much national attention, at least in mainstream circles. In non-mainstream circles, though, that Indiana law got lots and lots and lots of attention. And it inspired a lot of fantasist, armed resistance against armed tyranny kind of stuff, particularly on YouTube. These two cobbled together homemade videos on YouTube, both celebrating that Indiana shooting cops law is essentially an invitation to armed revolution against the U.S. government. These were both posted on YouTube not long after that law was signed. You can still find them on YouTube today. And on that website, they got liked, they got a thumbs up, they got approved online by this 22-year-old woman, originally from Indiana, late of Nevada. And the reason her online history of liking or disliking things is now making the national news is because she and her husband left a long online trail that more or less may explain why those two went on a shooting rampage yesterday in Las Vegas, including ambushing two police officers at a pizza joint, killing both of them, and then killing another local man at a nearby Walmart. The female suspect then reportedly shot and killed her husband inside the Walmart before she ended up killing herself. And as amazing it is to say this, 5 people, including 2 assailants, killed in an orgy of gunfire in the United States. It's sort of something more than an everyday occurrence, but it's usually less than a national news story. And the reason that this one in Las Vegas has risen to the level of national and intense interest is in part because of that online trail that the killers left behind, as well as the unusual and seemingly political trappings of the crime scenes in Vegas and how they left them.
They walked past our officers who were eating lunch in one of the booths, and immediately upon passing them, Jared Miller pulled a handgun out and shot Officer Saldo one time in the back of his head. Officer Saldo immediately succumbed to his injuries, and there was no further movement from him in the booth. At that time, Officer Beck immediately began to react when he was confronted with lethal gunfire from Jared Miller, and he was shot once in the throat area. What happened after that very quickly was that Amanda Miller then removes a handgun from her purse, and both Jared and Amanda Miller fire multiple shots into Officer Beck. This entire incident at the CC's is captured on videotape. We're still conducting forensic review of that video. Immediately upon the shooting finishing, the suspects pulled the officers out of the booth and onto the ground, where they placed a Gadsden flag, which is a "Don't Tread on Me" yellow flag on the body of Officer Beck. They also threw a swastika on top of his body. At that point, Mr. Jared Miller then pinned a note to Officer Saldo that basically stated that this is the beginning of the revolution. They made the same types of comments inside of the restaurant, where numerous restaurant patrons heard that commentary. They then walked out of the restaurant, gathered their backpacks, and proceeded in a southbound direction. They then crossed Nellis Boulevard over to the Walmart and entered into the front door of the Walmart store. Immediately upon entering the store, Jared Miller walked in through the front doors and fired off one round and told the people to get out, and that this is a revolution and that the police were on the way.
This was not a revolution, but the police were on their way. Multiple police officers responded to that Walmart where the couple apparently barricaded themselves inside the store. They apparently did not shoot at or kill anyone else inside that store after the first victim who they shot inside Walmart. And although police officers reportedly did shoot at them inside the store, the couple apparently died together in a murder-suicide rather than be shot by police or taken into custody. The female in the couple was reportedly 22 years old, She's the one who appears to have been very focused on the political goal of killing police officers. At least showed an interest in that with her YouTube profile and other online comments. Mother Jones magazine reports today that in 2012, a week after Mitch Daniels signed the Indiana It's Okay to Shoot Cops law, the male suspect of the couple also reportedly wrote approvingly about that law on the website of conspiracy theorist radio host Alex Jones. Mostly the record of his online existence, though, is just very focused on the Second Amendment. This is him posting something that says police will never attack armed people the way they will attack unarmed people. Posted multiple videos of himself on YouTube talking about the Second Amendment, lamenting online that because he was a person with felony convictions, he could not legally own guns. At one point, he posted on Facebook that he wanted help acquiring a rifle. As a felon, he couldn't pass a background check, but obviously that's no problem. You can just buy it in a private sale or at a gun show and avoid the background check because we never closed that loophole as a nation, even though the Senate for a hot second tried. Now, whether or not this was meant as a serious request for help in obtaining a rifle or whether, as he said later on, he was just kidding around, police today said that they recovered from the crime scenes in Las Vegas no rifle. The only long gun they say they recovered was a shotgun. They say they also recovered 4 handguns inside the Walmart. Police seem to believe that 2 of the handguns were used by the couple from the outset of the shooting spree, including at the pizza place, and that the other 2 handguns that they had may be guns that they took from the police officers who they killed at the first venue. In addition to the Indiana It's Okay to Shoot Cops law and Second Amendment issues broadly, the male suspect from the couple, and this has received a lot of attention today, he also has an extensive online trail related to the Bundy Ranch and the standoff between the sovereign citizen Nevada rancher who doesn't believe in the power of any governmental authority higher than the county sheriff, and who therefore refused to pay grazing fees for grazing his livestock on federal land, the conflict between him and federal law enforcement officials. When the Fox News Channel and other conservative media outlets whipped that conflict between the rancher and the federal government into a national frenzy on the far right this spring in April, the male suspect from yesterday's shootings in Las Vegas appears to have posted on his Facebook page about his support for the Bundy Ranch fight. He said, "This is the next Waco. The ranch is under siege right now. We must do something. I will be doing something." On his YouTube page, the suspect from yesterday's shooting appears also to be the one asking questions, actually conducting sort of pseudo interviews with Bundy family members and supporters at the militia standoff ranch site in Bunkerville. You won't see him on camera here. He appears to be the person behind the camera doing the interviewing.
Okay, Margaret, well, thank you for your testimony.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And it's awesome that you're out here doing this.
Okay, well, Clive is my brother. This is family. This is where I was raised. This is where I've seen the cattle on the river. It's how it's supposed to be. And it's and not even turtle, cowboy. I mean, cowboy, turtle, cow. It is our freedom. They're taking it away inch by inch, and we need to stand up.
It doesn't matter what their excuse is.
Exactly.
They're taking our freedoms.
I mean, that's right. That's right. And we need to fight, America. We need to fight.
Thank you.
My name is Ryan Bundy, so even if the state took over this land, as they should do, there's still rights attached that belongs to individuals. And those need to, we make sure we recognize those after we take this land back.
Well, I want to thank you for your time. It was a very good interview. And best of luck, brother.
Thank you.
In addition to apparently conducting those interviews himself at the Bundy Ranch standoff, you can tell there he's holding his own camera because when they have the handshake, the camera shakes, right? In addition to what appears to be the suspect from this weekend conducting those interviews, again, he's the suspect in this weekend's murder of 2 police officers and 1 other person in Las Vegas. That suspect himself was also briefly interviewed during the standoff by a local Reno TV station called KRNV.
I feel sorry for any federal agents that want to come in here and try to push us around or anything like that. I really don't want violence toward them, but if they're going to come bring violence to us, well, if that's the language they want to speak, we'll learn it.
Again, that's from KRNV in Reno during the Bundy standoff. I should tell you, although the young man here is wearing 2 different kinds of camouflage, there does not seem to be any evidence that he ever served in any military capacity other than what appears to be sort of a fantasy in his own mind. This is reportedly the suspect from this weekend's shooting of 2 police officers and 1 other person in Las Vegas. The T-shirt that he's wearing under his camo jacket here, that's a campaign T-shirt, actually, for a Clark County sheriff candidate named Gordon Martinez. Local candidate for sheriff, also claims to be a lifetime member of the Oath Keepers. Remember that word from some of our previous reporting. That's one of the militia-style groups that did set up camp at the Bundy Ranch during their fight with federal law enforcement. But they've been around for a while on the far-right fringe of conservative politics. The Oath Keepers and also the Constitutional Peace Officers Association, which is headed up by Richard Mack, frequent Fox News guest, also seen here in this Facebook photo, reportedly standing there with the suspect from this weekend's shootings. The Oath Keepers and the Richard Mack Sheriff's Group, like sovereign citizens groups more broadly, and like the ideology driving the Bundy Ranch standoff, they specifically do not believe in the existence or the authority of the federal government. Basically, they don't believe there's any law enforcement authority higher than a county sheriff. And anybody else, their authority can be not just lawfully, but forcefully disobeyed. It's a radical offshoot of what used to be called the Posse Comitatus movement, which was closely allied with the big upsurge in militias in the Clinton era back in the 1990s. Sometimes that was a white supremacist movement, sometimes it wasn't. At this point, the functioning of the swastika imagery and the crimes that were committed yesterday in Las Vegas may have been a symbol of white supremacist or neo-Nazi views on the part of the perpetrators. They may have also been an epithet leveled at the officers who were shot by those perpetrators. And at this point, it becomes necessary but bizarre to note that in August, this past August, Las Vegas was the site of another bizarre targeting of police officers, a bizarre and violent targeting of police officers, apparently for obscure and fringe ideological reasons. Again, it was a couple who had moved to Las Vegas from Indiana, though that appears to be nothing more than a coincidence. In this case, the couple was older. It was a 42-year-old man and a 67-year-old woman. They were allied with the sovereign citizen movement, and according to the criminal complaint and the police report when they were arrested, their sovereign citizen ideology meant not just that they didn't acknowledge the authority of police officers, but they actively wanted to wage war on the police in order to start a sort of sovereign citizen revolution. Quoting from the AP at the time they were arrested, quote, "The couple spent hundreds of hours over 4 months plotting to abduct, torture, and kill Las Vegas police officers as a way to attract attention to their anti-authority sovereign citizens movement," police said. The 2 attended training sessions about sovereign citizen philosophy. They shopped for guns. They found a vacant house and rigged it to bind captives to the crossbeams during interrogations. They also recorded videos to explain their actions and why, in their minds, police officers had to die. They had an apartment, this couple, apparently 3 miles east of the Las Vegas Strip. They had unwittingly brought a police informant in on their planning to abduct and torture and interrogate police officers, and they were arrested again in August. The 2 were charged ultimately separately. Both pled guilty to conspiracy to commit false imprisonment. Now, there's no indication that these 2 sets of couples were connected in any way other than both appearing to have extremist anti-government, specifically anti-police views that they linked to a larger political movement, whether or not the larger political movement accepted or linked to them. Is something specific going on in Nevada? Doesn't seem like a Las Vegas specific problem, but is something specific going on in Nevada? Does this online ideological trail of breadcrumbs with this couple that apparently committed these crimes yesterday and is now dead, does their online trail of breadcrumbs just happen to be the political detritus of a pair of run-of-the-mill criminals who would have done this regardless? Are their online fascinations, might they just as easily been something else? Is it just our own desire to find meaning here that has us imparting too much meaning to what they believed and why they said they were doing, why they did it? Or is a fantasist and weapons-focused strain on the far right of American politics right now making this sort of thing more likely, making it more possible than it otherwise would be if no one was out there encouraging folks to believe that shooting police officers in a pizza shop and shooting up a Walmart might reasonably be the way to spark an anti-government revolution? Hold that thought.